Hey guys, welcome to the SpriteUV2 tutorial. First off, I'm just going to create a simple atlas just to show you how this works. I've already prepared some assets for this tutorial, so basically the first thing you're going to want to do is select those assets, and you're just going to drag them into the program here. Okay, so now that we've done that, the next thing that we need to do is specify where we want to export the atlas, which I've already saved the path, so I'm just going to paste it here. And next you're going to need to specify where you want to save the meshes for that. And so it's going to basically be the same as the atlas, but we're going to add another folder and call it mesh. And this can be anything you want, but I'm just going to call it mesh. And that's pretty much it. So then last thing that you want to do is just press the build button right here. Okay, and there you go. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's just see how they look in Unity. To start off, we can just take a look at the atlas, and here you have that here. And so this is actually what SpriteUV2 made. And so the next thing we're going to do is just drag these meshes here, and there you go. And just to see how they look wireframe, just gonna show you right here. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to go into the more detailed settings with SpriteUV, and so let's move on to that. Okay, so just to talk about the more detailed settings, we're going to use head as the example. And here you have like the overview of the file as well as the sprite information. And yeah, so like basically here you have which atlas it belongs to, the source file, and we'll explain the use alpha later. And after that we have the export group, which is for the meshes, and the path prefix, which adds a prefix to the export group. And just to go into the sprite settings, you can see them here, but just to isolate them, we're just going to go into here. And here you have the name. You can actually change that if you want. And selection type. So we have two types of selection, and one of them is image, and then the other is selection shape. And with selection shape, we can actually specify the shape that we want to use to select the sprite. And there are two modes. There's add and edit. And I'm just going to go to add. And to create a shape, you just do that by simply clicking. And so we'll start going like this. And I'm just going to kind of roughly do this. I'm not going to be very specific about it. And it automatically closes it for you. And so yeah, here's the shape, and if you want to do any edits, you can actually just click the edit here. And to add points, you hold Alt, and you click here, or anywhere on the line, and if you want to remove them, you just click again. And there you go. And if you want to do any editing, you just, without holding anything, you just left click and drag. And yeah, that's basically it for the selection shape function. And just to move on, so that's saved, and we're just going to go on to the mesh type. And there are a few settings here. So you have tight, which is probably what you're typically going to use, but if you don't want to use that and you want to specify the selection that you just made, you just go to here. And after that, we have the bounding box, which selects the maximum area around the mesh, essentially. And then after that, we have frame, which selects the entire area of the image itself. And so we're just going to go back to tight here, and just going to talk about a few settings here. So we have convex, which, I mean, essentially you have either non-convex or concave or convex, and by doing this, you can see how it switches the way that the mesh is created. And I'm just going to turn it off. So typically that's used for collision detection or anything like that, but I'm not going to go into that. And then next you have offset, which I mean, you can adjust accordingly. So let's try to go to 0. And you can see how the mesh changes like here. And also along with that, if you take a look down here in the bottom left corner, you can see how the vertices, triangles change according to those settings. So I'm just going to set this back to 3. And you can see how it reduces the amount of vertices and triangles. And then after that, we have the alpha threshold, which by default is 0.001. But you can change that, and by doing so, like setting it to 0. Okay, so let's zoom in and see what's happening. Basically, the reason for the alpha threshold is because you actually have all these pixels here that we actually don't want to include in our mesh. So that's why we can adjust this. So setting it back to 0.001 excludes those. And yeah, so you can see that. And then moving on to tessellation, you can either keep it as none, or you can switch to simple. And by changing the value, you can see how the mesh actually changes. So setting it to 0 decreases the amount of points, and then increasing it increases the accuracy of how the mesh is defined. And then I'm just going to set this back to 1, just 'cause it's kind of messy here. Okay, and next we have the mesh pivot, image absolute, image relative, and bounding box. So image absolute is based on the number of pixels. And so if we set this, for example, 100, you can see how the pivot changes like that. Then if we move to image relative, it's based on 0 to 1, and if we remove this 0, 0, and for example, if I want it, since it's 0 to 1, if I put 0.5 here, it's going to move it up halfway. And so I'm just going to change this back here. And then we're just going to go to bounding box. And so basically this is also 0 to 1. And just by changing here, you can see how it moves halfway according to the bounding box. And since I don't really need this shape here, I'm just going to hit this button here, and it's just going to remove that shape. And then I'm just going to switch it back to image. Okay, and then next you have angle, which determines the angle of the pivot. And actually you can set the values specifically, or just to show you that you can actually manually drag this, just left click and drag, and by doing so you can see how this changes. And then you have the ring around here, which is the rotation, so it changes the angle like so. Okay, and then we have the sort order, which you can adjust, and you can also adjust them for any of the assets here as well. And then lastly, we have the 9 slice, which is for Unity sprites, as you can see here. And if you go to, just speaking of Unity sprites, you can actually go here and select the type of mesh format you want. And so when you're wanting to use this, you actually have to use Unity sprite. And here it has the texture GUI ID, and basically you have the instructions here on how to acquire that. And then next you have the export group, and here you need to also change according to which format you want to export as. Okay, next I would like to just kind of get into an additional feature for SpriteUV2, and that is exporting multiple atlases. And basically the times that you want to do this is if you wanted to create extra atlases for normal maps or glow or anything like that. And so yeah, so to start off, I want to create an additional atlas. And just to do that, you go to this button here and you click that. And I'm just going to rename this to, let's just name it to normal. Okay. And then next you're just going to want to make it the same path as your original atlas. There you go. And then next, now that we've made that, just to show you how to add a sprite to the atlas, we're going to go here, back to the head.png, and right here, you have to hit the plus sign here to add an additional atlas, and then you're going to have to select the atlas. And here is where you respecify the source. And so I already have one prepared here, so I'm just going to go into the normal here and have the head normal map here. And there you go. And next, just going to build this out. So, okay, so now that those have been built out, let's just see how they look. So let's go to the Explorer here. And here you have the color version. And here you have the normal version. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to talk about is something I kind of skipped over earlier, and that is the use alpha feature. So let's go back to SpriteUV2. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to switch this normal asset here to a different one. For this one, I'm going to use a glow asset. And as you can see around the sprite here, or the mesh, it actually expanded the area that you use. And this is a combination of both the alpha from the export atlas and the export normal. And basically, if you want to switch this off, you click here. And as you can see, it uses just the alpha setting or alpha channel from the original one. And to put that back to what it was before, just click that back on. And as you can see, it expanded. And that pretty much explains that's pretty much it for that feature. And the last thing that I wanted to just kind of go into before wrapping this video up is the atlas settings. And so here you have a few different settings, and one of them is padding, and that is determining the amount of space in between all the meshes within the atlas. And you can switch the settings, some power of 2, or power of 2 quad, or not power of 2. And then the next setting would be quality, which adjusts the accuracy of the atlas. So by raising the number, the accuracy is reduced, but the amount of time that it takes to build the atlas is faster. And by setting that lower, the amount of time that it takes for the atlas to be built is increased, but it is more accurate. And then lastly, you have the preferred width and height. And what SpriteUV2 does is it automatically changes it or adjusts accordingly. But if you want, you can set it to a specific width and height. So yeah, I believe that wraps it up. So thank you for watching this tutorial video.